Good morning. What is up? It is a special edition of Esports with Emrick. I'm Emrick, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the day one that we had yesterday in the EU Masters. It's the play-in stage, so we don't have any DFS action. DK has no support for it, which kind of sucks because there's 24 games yesterday. There's 24 games today. You could have some absolutely epic slates depending on the way that you wanted to break those up, how you wanted to do it. If you wanted to do cumulative, I think that would be absolutely nuts. But they don't do it. We'll probably get some support for the actual main part of it. But what we're going to talk about today is just kind of what we saw, and then kind of take a look at some of the betting lines. Some of these have changed pretty drastically from last night, and the money's coming where I kind of thought it was going to go, and I wish I had gotten in on some of these lines instead of just kind of recording them and thinking about what I wanted to do. Anyway, let's get kind of into it. So in Group A, which was a group that not a lot of people had heard about, these teams are not some of the teams from the highest profile regions, and we were able to take advantage of some of the lines that were posted pretty late for day one. White Dragons came out ahead 3-0. Team Phantasma ended up 2-1. They came into the week as some pretty big dogs in some of these matchups, and they were able to take advantage of that. Sector 1 ended up beating Go Aximo. I probably was saying that one wrong, but they were by and far the weakest team. That was kind of to be expected, despite the fact that their betting lines yesterday didn't reflect that. So, what do we know about this group at this point that we can think about from day one? The first thing that I can see is that I do not expect the White Dragons to be able to win 3 more games. I don't think that they're going to go 3-0 in this group. If you look back over the last 3 years, only LDLC last year in summer was able to get out of the group stage and play-ins at 6-0. Every single other team in any, whether it was summer or spring, was not able to do so. They lost at least 1 game. So I think that's, we have 3-0 teams. To expect, excuse me, I had to sneeze there. To expect that any more than one of these teams gets out of this 3-0 would be kind of it would be unprecedented. So I think White Dragons loses a game today. Let's just keep that in mind. I like Team Phantasma. They're probably the team that's going to be able to do that. I do have an expectation that Gonaximo is going to struggle again today. They didn't look good yesterday. I didn't catch every one of their games, but I did watch bits and pieces for the most part of a lot of these teams. So we'll take a look at that. We'll keep that in mind, and we'll move over to Group B, which was, when you looked at Group B, you kind of knew who you were looking at. You knew who it was going to be. It was going to be the Movie Star Riders. It was going to be Fnatic Rising, and that kind of proved to be true. The matchup between those two teams was kind of the marquee matchup from this group yesterday. And while it stayed close in the early part of the game, Movie Star was able to just absolutely dominate and take over in the late game, and there was no question about that. Same can be said about kind of Fnatic's game against Emcon, who was actually able to beat the Iron Wolves. Look, Emcon and Iron Wolves are not either team that I'm really excited about or had high expectations for. I will say that the Iron Wolves played a really good early game against Fnatic. Were able to equalize a lot of the trades on dives. Their mid laner played fantastic. They just weren't good enough to hold equal footing with them throughout the entire game. But I do expect they get a game today. So we're going to kind of look and try and find a game where we can target them with decent odds, or where they might be favored against Emcon. I'm not sure. We'll take a look at that in a second. Group C was another one of those groups that was just kind of, not one that people had heard of. Most of the major teams were grouped into Group B and Group D. Group C, again, we get a 3-0 team, we got an 0-3 team, and then we got 2 teams kind of in between. It's just kind of the story of the day. Again, I think this is a situation where CVE is not a team that I expect to go 3-0. But Karma is definitely a team that could go 0-3. So Karma and Gonaximo were both teams that came from lower regions. They had improbable runs through their playoffs, and in some cases didn't even do very well against weaker competition in the middle part of in the middle part of their season. So, if you take a look at, like, let's say Karma here, this was a team that played, 7-7 in the regular season, was able to beat the White Dragons, I believe it was, in a playoff series, and off 7. This was a good team too. So they just had a really fantastic playoff run, was able to equalize both of these teams. I can't say that I watched a ton of either of those regions. I spent most of my time watching the big regions, your Super League, your Prime League, and things of that sort, Ultra League. So I'm not super familiar with the team, but you look at this, it's 3-2, 3-2. They're a 500 team. We go into that summer season, not a ton of teams here, but they kind of just squeaked into the playoffs here. Almost, it looked like it was almost a tiebreaker situation that got there, but it looks like the whole league gets there. 7-7. Let's take a look at their games during the season. Let's see, they were 0-2 against off. So so I mean, they're a decent team. Can they steal a game? Absolutely. We might look for a spot where they can do that. Now, when we look at the primary, this is the group that everybody pinpointed. I looked at it, and there were just a lot of comments about, in terms of this group was going to be the strongest group, and somebody was going to be left out of this group. Rogue managed somehow to get a 3-0 yesterday, despite looking probably like one of the shakier teams in the group. Isuba was able to take a game off of, I think it was Vitality at the end. In fact, that is indeed the case, despite the fact that they were actually doing pretty well when it came against Rogue. If we want to take a look at something here, we can look at kind of the gold advantage in that game, and you can see that it kind of went back and forth for the first 8 minutes. Rogue took advantage, took the lead, and then around 24 minutes, up till about 32, Isuba was in control of this game. I thought that this was going to be a game that they were going to win. They were going to get the upset early, set the tone for their group play, but they got wiped in a team fight, and at that point the death timers were just too long, and we saw Rogue end up winning that game. Look, what I'll say about that though is that this was, I believe, their first game in the groups. They were able to come back, have a competitive game against Mouse, and then go ahead and upset Vitality. So they didn't quit. They stuck to it. I think that bodes well for them today, and we're going to take a look at their betting odds, because definitely there's some places to attack when it comes to them. Mouse and Vitality both looked good. Again, they had some questionable games, some situations. Vitality lost to Isuba. They just seem to be like this team that dominates the early part of the split into the mid split. They fall flat when it comes to the playoffs, and they get into these play-ins, and last year they didn't make it out of play-ins. They lost to Schlake, which who felt completely flat in the main part of the tournament. So I don't know, will they get out of it? It still remains yet to be seen. Again, we got 24 games. They are starting in about 30 minutes, so let's get right into the betting. Here is kind of a sheet here. The darker the green, the more interested I am in this. A couple things have kind of moved, and we'll go into that. Again, look, I think Sector 1 is a spot that you can bet here against Gonaximo. You don't have to if you don't feel comfortable with a minus 285. This is a best of one. So that's a pretty big line to lay on a best of one. I think that Sector 1 is significantly better team, so I don't have a problem throwing a couple units there to win one. If you get it, you start the day off good, and if not, I guess you're going to chase a little bit because it is the first game of the day. And I do think there's some English broadcasts, so you will be able to watch some of these games without a foreign language. If you're bilingual, great, awesome. Next one, Emcon versus Fnatic. Again, I'm not thinking Fnatic's the best team in that group, but I certainly don't think Emcon is on Fnatic's level. This is just way too big of a line. Minus 750. No, thank you. I don't care if you want to take a shot. It's a best of one. Plus 475 is a huge line. I'm probably going to stay away from this one. Again, though, look, hey, start your day off really good. You throw a half a unit at that, you end up with a 1.25 units. It's a nice way to do it if it happens, but I don't have high hopes for it. So Fnatic looked good, and they weren't. The biggest thing is they were losing more in the late game, and they lost more in the late game to Movie Star Riders, who's a much better team than Emcon. So they're going to get out to leads, and that's the biggest thing with Fnatic. When they have lost, it has been more towards the mid and the late game. They're super strong early. As a result, some of these weaker teams that are not going to be able to take advantage of that, I'm not as interested in betting them. Let's see. Next one is going to be Mouse versus Rogue, basically a pick 'em. Pretty close to it. Now, this moved pretty significantly. I think Mouse last night was a minus 150 favorite. At that point, I really liked Rogue a lot more. Now that it's kind of 50-50, plus 115, minus 115, take whichever side you want. Rogue was able to utilize their late game, their team fighting to go 3-0 in the group yesterday. It did look a little sketchy leading up to it. They did play some really weird comps. I mean, I think there was one where it was like a Ziggs, Syndra, Ziggs mid lane, Syndra bot lane. And it's just a little bit much for me to feel good about. But yeah, so there's a spot. Pick whichever side you want. I don't know what to tell you. I kind of lean Rogue. I just do. They were a better team throughout the split. They only find themselves in the playoffs because they lost in the I think it was the winners finals of the playoffs, and so as a result, they got knocked down here instead of moving directly into the main event. Next game, Outplayed versus CVE. This is a line that moved as well, despite their 3-0 day. CVE is not an overwhelming favorite here. In fact, they are actually the dog, giving you even odds against Outplayed. I felt like Outplayed was the better team. I bet Outplayed a lot yesterday. That didn't work well. I outplayed myself in that sense. So, I kind of like the CZE pick at even money. Not going super heavy on this. This is probably one unit. I'll kind of indicate any ones that I think you can go a little heavier than others. Movie Star, minus 650, Iron Wolves plus 400. I don't have an interest in this one. I'm going to pass. I think Movie Star is the odds-on favorite here. I think that they crush the Cruise. This isn't a problem for them. At minus 650, I have no interest going there. Next one. We've got the Sinners versus Karma. Now, this is a game that I kind of chased the Sinners yesterday. I thought that they would do a little bit better in their group. I think I bet them in every single game except for their game against Karma. I guess I went against them at that point, and I was punished for it, as that was the only game that they ended up winning. You've got to pick them here. Karma just looked bad. Again, they were a team that had a kind of a miracle playoff run. They got hot at the right time. A lot of their other, indications in terms of their peripheral stats didn't really indicate that this was going to be a team that was able to make that run and is able to make a deep run in this. They're 0-3 right now. I do think that they possibly pull off a game, but it's just as possible that they go 0-6. So I'm going to have a small side on Sinners here. Now, when we talk about Isuba, they were very close yesterday in winning all their games. They were competitive, but that's not the kind of lines that they're getting today. They're getting plus 350, plus 290, and then a plus 315. So there's a couple ways that you can play this. You could try and just hope that they get one game. If they get one game and you put a 1-unit wager on them, depending on what game that is, you're either going to get a small profit, just a very, very small loss, or you're going to, break even. So I think that's kind of the strategy that I'm going to take, and just hope that they're able to steal 2 of these games, essentially hedging my odds here. So in each one of the Isuba games, I am taking them, backing them with 1 unit. That's where we're going to be. Now, this next game, like I said, I don't expect the White Dragons to go 3-0. I thought Phantasma looked fantastic. I didn't even plan it to say it like that. And they're getting kind of the odds here at plus 145. I'm probably going to throw let's say 2 units at this one. This is the one that's going to be my confidence pick. Now, take that with a grain of salt. Yesterday, all my confidence picks lost, and the ones that just had the normal wagers won. So, hopefully it's a reversal of fortunes type of day. We've already established that Isuba is a game that we're going to go towards here against Rogue. Now we've got the Iron Wolves versus Fnatic. Just again, this line is too crazy on both sides. I'm not interested. I don't think Iron Wolves are good enough. I don't think plus 375 is good enough for me to lay a bet. And I certainly don't want to bet anything at minus 600. I think Fnatic rolls here. Again, same analysis as earlier. Now we're starting to get into these game twos. Karma, again, I don't think that they're good. If we're getting better odds, maybe, but plus 190, probably not. I'm going to go CZE. It's tough to say those 3 letters, as a matter of fact. Minus 260. I'm going to throw 2.5 units here to win 1. Team Phantasma plus 115 against Sector 1. I think that this is another mistake. Probably going to 1.5 units, maybe 2 units on this one. I think Sector 1 is a decent team, but Team Phantasma just impressed me yesterday. I'm going to be heavily backing them, so my profitability is going to be pretty dependent on their success. So rooting for Greece here today. Next game, Movie Star, again, minus 600, Emcon plus 375. Not interested in this game. These lines are just, again, Emcon's not good enough to justify that. Movie Star, minus 600. I'm not laying anything at minus 600. Sinner outplayed. Again, look, outplayed, minus 350. This is an absurd line, so much so that I'm just going to have to go check it, make sure that I have it recorded right. And I do. It's right. Minus 350. This is not a team that I'm laying 350 against anybody. Sinner plus 250. You know what? Sure, you can take a shot at this one. These teams are a lot closer than what you get with like the Iron Wolves and Fnatic. A lot closer than what you get with Emcon and Fnatic, or Emcon, Iron Wolves, Movie Star, that group. This one is a lot closer together. So Sinner at plus 250 is something that you can put a small wager on if you're looking for a dog. I think that line is a little bit wrong. There's no way I'd ever put any type of money here on outplayed. I think that line is just ridiculous. Next, Vitality. They're just the better team, despite all the struggles that they seem to have in these play-in tournaments, despite the struggles that they seem to have in the playoffs. I'm going to back them at minus 155 against Mouse. To take 1.5 units to win 1. Next, we've got the White Dragons, minus 260. Again, going to be a broken record here. I don't think that they're going to go 3-0, but this is not the game that they're going to drop. And at plus 190, it's not attractive enough for me to go on that side of it. One of the other, outside of that group D, the marquee match for the day is going to be Movie Star versus Fnatic. I like Movie Star here. This could very well be a match that determines first place. So they're going to be playing for a lot here, and that seeding is going to be important for them in the knockout stage. Taking, Movie Star 1.5 units to win 1. Sinner plus 155 versus CVE. Look, I don't have a problem with you taking Sinner here. I think this is one that you kind of see how some of the other games play out. This isn't a wager you make right away. And maybe that's the case with a lot of these later games, to just see how these lines move. There have been some significant moves from last night. Only half of these games were posted last night when I went to sleep. So I guess I probably should have recorded the changes instead of just inputting all the new stuff, but I didn't. So yeah, I just wait and see on that one. Vitality Rogue. I think it's a pretty close matchup. I don't have a problem with Rogue at plus 120. I don't have a problem with Vitality at minus 155. This is just kind of a conviction thing. This would be more so, especially after that first game, if you see how Rogue plays, if they lose, if Vitality loses to Isuba, this is just one you kind of want to wait on and see how these odds adjust and see how the teams are playing. White Dragons against Sector 1. Absolutely love this. Again, this is one that I'm going to check because it just doesn't look right to me. Yeah, it's right. So for whatever reason, Sector 1 is the favorite, despite what we saw yesterday. I'm going to take White Dragons at minus 105. Iron Wolves versus Emcon. This is going to be a game, that doesn't mean a whole lot. So, especially some of these games like Emcon and the Wolves. This one, actually, this is one of the only ones late that's really not going to mean anything. Both of these teams should be eliminated by that point, so this could be kind of crazy. We're going to have to see how this, how these odds adjust, but. I think that the Wolves will probably be a larger dog at the end of the day. And, this is going to be kind of a coin flippy game. I expect some really, really weird comps. We've seen some pretty nutty stuff in the ERLs when teams were eliminated in their last game of the season. I think there was like a 90 kill game that I talk about where it was like a Yone Yasuo bottom lane. And so some of these games can get kind of crazy. So in those situations, I'm taking the plus money because it's just neither team's taking it serious. So I want the odds on my side. We've already established how we're attacking the East Suba versus Maus, all East Suba games. We're just betting that ahead of time. You can kind of chase and adjust depending on how that moves. And if East Suba loses their first two games, maybe you double down. Maybe they're plus 400 at that point. Just something to monitor. And then that last game, Outplayed versus Karma. I think Outplayed wins. I think they're not worthy of a 425 tag. So I'm not going to touch that one. So that's it. I got a couple comments here. Okay. So nothing about the games here. But okay. Yeah. So, hey, this is been an episode of Esports with Emrick. You can find all my DFS content over on drroto.com. That DFS content through the end of the year is actually free. So you don't have to be a premium sub to get that, but we do have a lot of premium tools over there that you can check out. Some really cool stuff for MLB, the optimizers on its way out, and same with the NFL. It's pretty exciting. A lot of cool different features with it. Moves pretty smoothly. I've been able to play with it a little bit. I'll get a tutorial out for you guys there. If you have any questions about esports, you can catch me there in our Discord. And anything with this, you can catch me over in the esports department Discord, which is free. And we can shoot the shit here and talk about the ERLs. I'll be watching them all day, doing some work. But yeah, let's get it after it. Let's have a profitable day and get ready for the knockout stage. I'll talk to you guys later.